Three Vault Hunters found themselves aboard a horse-drawn carriage traversing the vast landscapes of Pandora. Accompanying them was Marcus Kincaid, a heavy-set man renowned as an arms dealer across the 6 galaxies. Known for his mercenary outlook and insatiable greed, Marcus often crossed paths with Vault Hunters, supplying them with weapons for the right price. Despite his aggressive business dealings, he maintained a peculiar camaraderie with those daring enough to seek adventure. Marcus turned to the trio and spoke. "So, you're looking to start your own story, eh? Adventure, excitement, loot, these are the currencies of the most dangerous and heroic profession, Vault Hunting. Your journey begins here, in the Wonderlands of Pandora. It's a world much like any other. Death is plentiful, loot even more so, and only the strongest and most insane survive." He painted a vivid picture of the world ahead. The Wonderlands are filled with dangerous beasts, powerful guns, courageous Vault Hunters, and epic quests. Every fantasy trope you've ever imagined, wizarding spells, fantastical creatures, you'll find them all here, and then you can shoot them in the face. But don't be fooled. Pandora isn't just a collection of cliches. Creatures and locals have a unique Pandoran twist. What might be a mere bandit elsewhere is a spell-slinging brigand here. He may use magic, but he'll still scream about riding your corpse like a meat bicycle. Marcus grinned slyly. And guns? Sure, we've got guns. But they're not just guns, they're magical wands that fire small pieces of metal at extremely high velocities. Different firing rates, ideal ranges, need to be reloaded. They may look like guns, but they're so much more. Okay, maybe they're basically the same. He chuckled. But everything else has a fresh coat of blood on it. As the carriage came to a halt, Marcus gestured toward the ominous woods ahead. "Now, here's your stop. Get the hell out of here. I'll be seeing you around, Vault Hunters. And remember to buy all your weapons and ammunition at my vending machines." The Vault Hunters stepped off the carriage, watching as Marcus gave them a final wave. The door closed, and the carriage set off, quickly disappearing into the distance. They noticed the back was carved with Marcus's munitions, and a small sign that read, "No refunds." Left alone in the wretched forest, the adventurers stood before broken paths leading into the unknown depths of Pandora. Among the trio of Vault Hunters left in the wretched forests of Pandora, Suidas stood with an air of quiet determination. As a siren, she possessed the extraordinary ability of phase walking, allowing her to become intangible and traverse unseen dimensions. Her past was a blank canvas. She had lost her memory prior to the ride with Marcus Kincaid. The quest for answers about her identity was as compelling as the adventures that lay ahead. Beside her was Mr. Phantom, a mysterious necromancer shrouded in enigma. He could summon his trusty death trap, a formidable mech that served as both protector and devastating force in battle. Mr. Phantom was known for his peculiar habit of frequently changing his mask, each one offering a new facade, but revealing nothing of the man behind it. His ever-shifting appearance only added to the aura of mystery that surrounded him. As the Vault Hunters surveyed the broken paths leading into the twisted depths of the forest, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining like skeletal fingers blocking out the waning sunlight. Suidas glanced at Mr. Phantom. "Any thoughts on which path might lead us closer to finding answers?" she asked, her voice tinged with both hope and caution. Mr. Phantom adjusted his current mask, a stark white visage with a subtle grin, and gazed down each shadowed trail. "Every path in Pandora holds its own secrets," he replied cryptically. "But perhaps the one less trodden will unveil the truths we're seeking." The third Vault Hunter stepped forward, ready to embark on the journey ahead. Together, they faced the foreboding woods, each driven by their own goals, but united in purpose. The Wonderlands of Pandora awaited them, filled with perilous beasts, hidden loot, and the untold stories that would shape their fates. With a final look back at the now empty trail where Marcus's carriage had disappeared, the Vault Hunters chose a path and ventured into the unknown, the first steps of their epic quest echoing softly in the silent forest. Standing alongside Suidas and Mr. Phantom was Cliff, the third Vault Hunter. A seasoned member of the Hunter class, Cliff possessed the unique ability to summon his pet wyvern to aid him in battle. With a rugged demeanor and a gleam of adventure in his eyes, he roamed Pandora in perpetual search of loot and liquor, treasures and taverns that promised excitement and reward. As the trio surveyed the broken paths leading into the twisted depths of the wretched forest, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The towering trees cast long shadows, their branches intertwining like skeletal fingers that blocked out the fading light. Cliff adjusted the strap of his gear and grinned. "Well, mates, looks like we've got ourselves a choice. I say we follow the path that smells like gold and ale," he suggested, his voice tinged with jovial excitement. Suidas nodded thoughtfully. "We're all searching for something. Perhaps our paths converge more than we realize," she mused, her gaze fixed on the shadowy trails ahead. Her quest for answers about her lost identity was as compelling as the unknown adventures that awaited them. Mr. Phantom glanced at Cliff, his current mask, a dark visage with enigmatic markings reflecting the dim light. "Loot and liquor may be your aims, but be prepared for what else we might uncover," he said cryptically. Cliff chuckled. "As long as there's something shiny or a good drink at the end, I'm game." Suidas turned to her companions. "Then it's settled. We'll take the path less traveled. It might just lead us to what we're each seeking." With a final look back at the now empty trail where Marcus's carriage had disappeared, the Vault Hunters chose a path and stepped into the unknown. The Wonderlands of Pandora awaited them, filled with dangerous beasts, hidden loot, and the untold stories that would shape their fates. United by circumstance, but driven by individual quests, they ventured deeper into the forest, their footsteps echoing softly as the first chapter of their epic journey began. As the Vault Hunters pressed deeper into the dense woods of Pandora, the eerie silence was broken by the distant clamor of battle. The sound of clashing metal and frantic shouts drifted through the trees, drawing their attention. Up ahead, they spotted an encampment nestled between the trees, its makeshift walls battered and barely holding against a relentless siege by a massive horde of goblins. The encampment's defenders, whoever they were, seemed to be on the verge of being overrun. Goblins, small but vicious, swarmed the fortifications, their grotesque forms armed with crude weapons and wild magic. Though the walls were fortified with wood and metal, it was clear they wouldn't withstand the sheer number of goblins for much longer. Cliff tightened his grip on his rifle, his eyes narrowing at the sight. "Looks like they've got a party going on, and we're the uninvited guests," he muttered with a grin. Suidas remained focused, assessing the situation. "Those walls are going to fall if we don't intervene, and now it looks like we've got company." She pointed towards a pack of goblins, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent as they spotted the Vault Hunters. The goblins let out high-pitched shrieks, brandishing rusty blades and staves, eager for fresh blood. Mr. Phantom tilted his head as his death trap began to materialize next to him with a whir of mechanical energy. Goblins. Predictable pests. "Let's clear them out before we have to worry about the bigger group," he said in his usual cryptic tone. Cliff unslung his rifle with one hand and whistled sharply. In response, a piercing screech echoed from above as his wyvern swooped down from the treetops, its leathery wings stirring the air around them. "All right, fellas, let's turn these little beasts into loot," he said with a gleam of excitement in his eyes. Suidas nodded, her form beginning to shimmer as she prepared to phase walk. "Let's move fast and hit them hard. We need to finish this before they overwhelm the encampment." As the pack of goblins charged toward them, snarling and gnashing their teeth, the Vault Hunters sprang into action. Cliff's wyvern soared overhead, letting out a roar as it descended upon the goblins, tearing into them with talons and fiery breath. Mr. Phantom's death trap surged forward, its metallic claws tearing through goblin after goblin, sending sparks flying in all directions. Suidas vanished into the ethereal plane, reappearing in the midst of the pack with a burst of energy, taking them by surprise. Blades clashed, magic crackled, and gunfire echoed through the trees as the Vault Hunters held their ground against the goblin pack. Even as the encampment's walls shuddered under the weight of the larger horde, the Vault Hunters fought fiercely, knowing they had to clear their immediate threats before turning their attention to the larger battle ahead. The fate of the encampment, and whatever treasure or secrets it held, depended on them. Mid the chaos of battle, Mr. Phantom's mind raced with possibilities. As goblins shrieked and clashed with Sweeders and Cliff, an idea sparked. He quickly persuaded Cliff to swap weapons, trading his revolver for Cliff's rifle. The two exchanged a knowing nod, and while Sweeders and Cliff continued their brutal assault, Phantom slipped into the shadows along the tree line, moving stealthily out of sight. With each calculated step, Mr. Phantom picked off goblins one by one, his shots silent and precise, reducing their numbers from afar. But as he reached a vantage point closer to the encampment, his eyes locked on a new threat. A massive goblin leader, towering over the rest. The brute bore a jagged, rusty blade nearly as large as he was, and a red banner rose above his head, marking him as a dangerous figure among the horde. The goblin leader bellowed orders, rallying the remaining goblins to press their assault on the encampment. Mr. Phantom's eyes narrowed. He needed to act quickly, or the walls would fall. As he crept closer, he spotted something in the corner of his vision, a red mushroom nestled between the trees. He recognized it immediately. Mushrooms in the Wonderlands had a spring-like effect when stepped on. A smirk curled under his mask. "Perfect," he muttered to himself. In one swift motion, Mr. Phantom bolted toward the mushroom and leapt onto it. The spring effect launched him high into the air, and with acrobatic grace he propelled himself onto the roof of the encampment. From this elevated position he had a perfect view of the battlefield, and more importantly, a direct line of sight to the goblin leader. With steady hands, Mr. Phantom took aim, the rifle's scope zeroing in on the leader's head. Time seemed to slow as he exhaled and squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew true, striking the goblin leader between the eyes. The brute staggered for a moment before collapsing with a thunderous crash, his banner toppling beside him. The remaining goblins, leaderless and disoriented, scattered in confusion. As the dust settled, loot began to pour across the battlefield, glittering weapons, shields, and other valuable items left in the wake of the fallen horde. Cliff, ever the opportunist, dove into the piles of loot with enthusiasm. "Come on, there's got to be a flask in here somewhere," he muttered to himself, tossing aside weapons and gear in search of liquor. Sweeders, meanwhile, smiled as she unearthed a powerful Torg shotgun from the pile. "This should pack a punch," she said, admiring the weapon. Mr. Phantom descended from the roof with a satisfied nod. His eyes caught sight of a sleek Dahl assault rifle among the loot. He picked it up, pleased with the find. "This will do nicely," he mused, inspecting the weapon. With the goblin threat neutralized and the encampment saved, at least for now, the Vault Hunters had not only survived, but thrived. As they gathered their newfound gear and prepared for whatever Pandora threw at them next, they knew that this was only the beginning of their epic journey. More beasts, loot, and secrets awaited them in the Wonderlands. But for the moment, victory tasted sweet.